Okay, so you know how everyone's got their pumpkins out and there's that spooky Halloween vibe in the air? Well, we've got some interesting stuff to dig into today.
Yeah, this time of year always brings up some interesting, maybe unexpected questions, especially looking at it, through a Catholic lens.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
you sent over this source material
Mm.
about how the Catholic Church views Halloween.
Hmm.
And honestly, I got to say, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff.
So we ready to kind of go beyond the ghosts and goblins and all that?
Absolutely. Let's dive into this.
Okay, let's do it. So one of the first things that jumped out at me from what you sent was this emphasis on like the Catholic Church's perspective on saints and sinners.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Halloween itself can almost feel like it's kind of blurring the lines between those two, right?
Oh, total.
Like, I mean, on Halloween night, you see people dressed up as, like, superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
And then right next to them, you got vampires and zombies. It's almost like this reflection of, like you said, that good and evil that we all kind of grapple with.
It really makes you think about those costume choices, right?
It does.
It's like, what are we drawn to?
Yeah.
Why do we pick what we pick? I never thought of it like that before. Are we drawn more to the virtuous figures,
Right.
or are we kind of drawn to those scary, spooky figures?
And I think that's what's so interesting about how this source material kind of ties it all back to like you're saying, the Catholic perspective.
Okay.
Like Halloween, it's not just about, the scary stuff.
Yeah.
It's got that lightheartedness too. And that in itself is kind of a reflection of the human experience, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That mix of light and dark, it's in all of us.
Exactly. We've all got both.
And you know what else really struck me from the source material was how it talked about death
Mm-hmm.
and the afterlife.
Mm.
It's kind of a heavy topic,
It is.
but they connect it to this idea of memento mori. Have you heard?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. And it's not supposed to be morbid, really. It's more like this call to action. Like, hey, this is a reality of life. And so how are you living your life right now?
That is kind of a powerful way to look at it, especially for Catholics.
And for Catholics, it's huge, you know? Are you striving for virtue? Are you striving for a life that is in alignment with your faith?
Which actually makes me think about the timing of All Saints' Day.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, it's right after Halloween.
It is.
That close proximity. I mean, is that just a coincidence?
That's something that this source really highlights. And it's fascinating. Like you have
Yeah.
Halloween, which in a way is kind of this playful, but also, like we said, a little bit of an exploration of the darker side of things, right?
Right.
And then boom, the very next day, we're celebrating All Saints' Day, all of these people who really embodied holiness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know, I think that's a really beautiful reminder that there is this potential for transformation, that we can move from a place of maybe darkness, maybe bad decisions, or whatever it might be, towards the light.
It's like that idea that no matter what, there's always hope.
Absolutely. There's always that potential for redemption.
So we've talked about saints and sinners, death and the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
We can't forget all the symbolism that goes along with Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pumpkins, ghosts, witches, all that. This source really dug into that. What'd you think about all that?
Yeah, and I think that's where looking at it through a Catholic lens can get really interesting,
Okay.
Because you take something like a pumpkin, pretty innocent, right?
Yeah.
But it's connected to the harvest.
Oh,
So it can represent abundance, it can represent the blessings in our lives,
interesting.
or even ghosts.
Okay.
Instead of just being spooky, scary things that go boo, they could be seen as symbols of souls that are in purgatory, which again ties back to that Catholic belief in an afterlife.
And purgatory being that place of purification, right?
Exactly right. It's not the final destination. And even something like witches.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, witches are generally associated with darkness, right?
Yeah.
But even there, we can find meaning. It can be this reminder that we have choices to make in life. There are different paths that we can take. And some paths might lead us closer to that light, that goodness.
Yeah.
And other paths, well,
They might lead us astray.
exactly.
So if we're connecting all these threads, it sounds like what you're saying is this source material is suggesting that Halloween for Catholics, it's not just about dressing up and getting candy.
Right.
It can be a time for some serious introspection.
Yeah, it's a time to ask ourselves some hard questions, like
Mhm.
how do I face the darkness in my own life? Am I living in a way that aligns with my values, with my faith? How can I better strive for holiness?
And what are some ways we can actually practically apply this kind of thinking during Halloween?
Well, it could be through prayer. It could be through acts of charity, Or maybe it's just about being more mindful in our everyday lives, the choices we make, the way we treat others.
So almost like this spooky season can be a springboard for some real personal growth.
In a way, yeah, it's a chance to reflect and hopefully grow closer to God and to the values that are important to us.
Wow. That is a lot deeper than I think a lot of us, myself included, usually go with Halloween.
Right.
This has been a really, really thought-provoking deep dive. Thank you for sending this material my way.
You got it. Happy to share.
It really makes you wonder, could reflecting on our own mortality, even amidst all the fun and festivities of Halloween, actually help us appreciate life even more? Not just on Halloween, but every single day. Something to think about.